I've been down here this morning early trying to get a head start on getting some corn hoed. We got 10 rows of it and it's going to be a pretty big job. I got to thinking I ought to till this instead of hoeing it. And hoe it right up next to the stalks maybe, but all the weeds and stuff that's out in the middle, I'll just go get the tiller. And I got to thinking I ought to get Pap's old tiller, because it's made many laps around this garden in years past, but it's been a long time. So I'm gonna go up there and get his tiller, if I can get it running and get it down here, and see if I can get this thing tilled.
One of the great things about being in Pap's big garden is the creek. It's always been nice that the creek's right here beside it. Makes it cool over here in the shade.
Yeah. Good place to dip your bandana in it and get it wet and get it around your neck.
Help you cool off.
Yeah.
This is a pretty big poplar tree, but over the years it just grew like this where it split. As you can see that hole down there, also over the years rocks have been piled in it. Makes you wonder how it's still alive, but it is. Look at that one, it's growing up inside the tree. This is my favorite place at the creek down at the garden, this big rock. It seemed so big when I was little. It seemed like there was just room enough for all of us to sit on it. It's not that big now that I'm an adult. But this is where Pap kept a little cup hanging in the laurels so that he could get a drink of water when he got hot. And it just makes the perfect place to sit and let your feet hang off into the creek. Looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Looks a whole lot better now that it's been plowed and weeded.
Yeah, it does. Maybe it'll take off now and we'll get it fertilized in a day or two. Have a good stand of corn.
I hope so. So this is Silver Queen corn. That's our favorite variety to grow. It's a white corn, but it is a sweet corn. Other thing that we have in this garden already planted is our potatoes. They're doing pretty good. They need to be healed and fertilized though.
Yeah. I'll do that in the next few days, next time, right ahead of the next rain.
They're coming up, some spots have not come up yet, but overall they're coming up pretty good since we planted them so late. Tiller run out of gas right when Matt was through, basically. He was going to go one more time down this side next to the bank or next to the road there, but run out of gas. At least he made it all the way through the corn. This upper area, you can see now that Matt's plowed there where the corn kind of ends at the end of that cattle panel. So this is a whole big area where we could plant something and we don't have anything planted. Think we're going to plant winter squash there, Matt, or squash and zucchini?
Yeah, I think squash and zucchini.
Squash and zucchini. Be enough for us and Corey and Austin and for Granny and Paul if we plant that whole area in that.
Yeah. I think we'll do a whole row of peanut beans, and I think there's room for a big long row of okra too for Corey and Austin. Austin really likes it like I do.
He loves okra. So yeah, between the last row of corn and the potatoes, there's a pretty big swath there.
So we'll do as much peanut beans as we can, and then that whole row of okra too.
We went and robbed Corey's chairs, her 70s lawn chairs, off her porch just to sit for a minute. I told Matt, I'm going to get us some chairs for down here. We used to have, like, remember that little desk chair we had? We never really had chairs though when Pap was alive. We sat on these rocks out through here. It's most of the time where we sat. But it'd be nice to have some chairs. It'd be nice to have a picnic table.
I tell you what'd be nice over in the shades, build a little gazebo and then put a picnic table in it.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice. It'd be nice. Add that to your giant list.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't never get done, ever.
It feels really good though to have, this was really bothering Matt. He wanted to hoe the corn and plow up the weeds before it got away from us, and I'm glad he pushed us to do it because it was going to get away from us. Yeah. We've had that happen in years past when Pap was still alive, like maybe it rained or maybe something happened, none of us couldn't get to it. Maybe it rained a lot and just couldn't get in it, and it is miserable to weed corn when the weeds are as tall as the corn. Oh, yeah, it's terrible, terrible. So we definitely done better than that. Matt done the brunt of the work using the tiller. We hope now that we know, Corey and Austin found this place in Murphy that actually has tiller, so we're going to go look and maybe we'll get another one. The front, what do you call it, front tine ones? Mm-hmm. They're, especially if you're in ground that's really hard, they'll just bounce and beat you to death, but they do go fast. They go faster than the rear tine ones. And this one's a powerhouse, but it's so slow.
They get in front tine tillers get a lot of hate, but I'd rather have one. I've run them lots. And to me, there's no difference in getting bounced and beat than they are trying to waller and wrestle this slow thing, and as heavy and top heavy as it is. Mm-hmm. I'd just soon be wore out from getting beat, but get done quicker than have to waller and wrestle this thing. You know. I mean, we've had this for years and used it for years, but
Yeah.
the first year we got it, about halfway through the summer, Pap proclaimed he hated that thing.
Because it was slow.
And so did I, but we bought it, we had it, and we was going to get the good out of it, and we have. But I'm going to, when I get another one, it'll be a front tine, and I'm just whatever.
Pap
To me, they dig better.
Pap had 2 or 3 or 2 other front tine ones.
Yeah.
And they would swap out and use them. And we had one, but ours, pretty much the first year we bought it, is that when it cracked?
That was the very first trip
First trip out
of the truck, right
yeah.
here, right behind us.
Yeah, and it just not well made and it cracked. But we nursed it along all these years until at the end of last year, or was that?
Yeah, I ran it for 10 years
Yeah.
with the gearbox with no grease in it.
Yeah.
Because it cracked it and it wouldn't stay in it and it leaked out, and I thought, well, I'll just run it and just see how long it'll go, and it went about 10 years.
Which is good.
But it finally broke in two.
Yeah, finally broke. So, and Matt over the winter tried to find one, but just couldn't ever. Of course, he was just looking online, couldn't find nothing that he was real satisfied with. Anyway, we're hopeful we'll find one at the place Corey and Austin found in Murphy. And
There's lots of tillers and lots of people makes tillers, but what she's meaning by me not being satisfied, they don't make stuff like you used to, and I don't want to pay, $800 or $1,000 for something, and that's what they cost. I looked at them just the other day, that I know ain't gonna make it 1 year.
Yeah.
Not in this rock pile, anyway. And we got a lot of rocks at home, and I just don't want to buy something that I know is not gonna make it.
Yeah. And if you're wondering, well, why do you even need a tiller? You've got a tractor. Well, you need a tiller to get in between the rows, in between little places where you can't get the tractor. Like Granny's garden, can't really get a tractor in it. A lot of our garden spaces, you can't get the tractor in it. So that's why we need the tiller too. So the corn, what do they say? You're supposed to be knee-high by 4th of July?
Yeah.
Ours might be knee-high by then.
You may be.
It might be, because it's growing pretty
we got
good.
It in late.
We got it in late, but it might be. Either way, I'm hopeful we'll have corn, even if it's not. But now, once corn starts getting high, then what you get afraid of, besides animals, you always got to worry about them, but it's wind. Wind. These last really, for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we've had storms, some pretty bad, not terrible, no damage or anything like that right here, but enough to blow the limbs out of the trees and things like that, and put down some trees in other places, but not right here. But that enough wind that would have definitely pushed corn over. So then you start worrying about that, and there just ain't nothing you can do about it. We've had big, beautiful patches of corn and just a horrendous summer thunderstorm come through with a lot of wind, and it just lays it all down.
Yeah.
A lot of people try to straighten it back up, and that might work a little bit, but Pap's theory was it's just either going to straighten up on its own or it's not. So he never tried much, did he?
No.
He just, because then once you start trying to push it back up, a lot of times you break the stalk, and just ain't much you can do about it. A lot of times it will straighten back up though, and you still make something, but yeah, that's just one of the worries you gotta, ain't nothing you can do about it though. You can't say, hey thunderstorm, stop, hold your wind, or go around me or something.
Yeah.
So, before people call it laying by, before you lay it by, definitely we're not ready to lay it by. We'll have to weed and hoe more and till it more. But Matt wants to fertilize it. We always did that, and he wants to fertilize that row of potatoes too. And what do we use, Matt?
I usually just use 10 because it's not, it ain't, it's not real hot. But it's, I always thought it was good enough, and it's cheap enough too. Most of the time it's a little cheaper than some of the like the 17 or 21 or some of the mixtures.
And some people don't like to use that. I understand if you want to use something, all natural, if you want to use the fish emulsion or something like that, or whatever it is that you want to use. A lot of people don't like to use that, I know, but that is what we use. So everybody just has to figure that part out for themselves, decide what they want to use and what they don't want to use, what they're comfortable with and what they're not comfortable with. But once we do that, and probably have to, eventually what happens is that when I say lay by, the corn gets tall enough that it pretty much shades out a lot of the stuff, and then it's either going to make it or it's not going to make it. You've pretty much done all you can to baby it and get it to that point, and then you've laid it by. Then you can kind of take a break from pouring over your corn and working over it and doing all the things you need to do. In the old days, that was just a glorious time, because then people knew because they were dependent on this for dear life. If Matt and I, if our corn gets blowed over, if the deer eat it, if the coons get in it, whatever happens to it, we're not going to starve to death this winter. But in those days, that was a real possibility. Hunger was always at the door. Anyway, so when they had laid it by, that was a joyous time, because then they might be able to go fishing or do whatever it was they was going to do. And of course, they were planting a whole lot more corn than this, and doing it all by hand.
Yeah, and plowing it with a mule.
Yeah, so it was by the time they finished it all, then they had to start back at the other end and do it again. What you pointing at, Dad? Huh?
On the bank.
Oh, I was thinking he's pointing. I was like, a snake? Where? But it was Binks coming down the bank to investigate what we're doing. He heard us talking, I'm sure. Here he comes. Anything else? Oh, I wanted to say about Matt was doing the tilling and I was weeding some. He'd already hoed some. I'm crazy, but I've all my life helping Pap and Granny. I don't have hoe skills. I just don't. And a lot of times I just get frustrated, and for me it's easier just to go along, bend over or squat down, whatever, and pull weeds. That's just easier. And lots of people over the years have said, why are you doing that? You're going to kill yourself. You're going to kill your back. But somehow for me it's easier to do that on my back than it is to actually use the hoe. So, and that could be because I've never really kept at it till I got my hoe skills really good. But that's just one of those things, you got to figure out what works for you. And for me, it's just faster and quicker a lot of times if I just go through there weeding by hand. I did use a hoe today, though, some there at the end. And Matt, what's the name of it? Let me grab it here. Do you remember?
It's got it down there, I just can't see it.
Oh, I can't see it. Rogue, R-O-G-U-E. And some of you, thank you so much, told us about this. So Matt ordered 2 of them, because the big blue one that he uses that come from Way Cool Tools, it's like indestructible, but it's too heavy for me to use. So we said we wanted some wood ones. People told us, 2 different people I think, or maybe more than that, told us about these, and we looked them up, and Matt said, well, we'll order 1 or 2 and try. And this one, you can see how small it is, the head of it. But that, I found, is perfect for corn, because then there's less chance of me accidentally getting the corn while I'm hoeing. So I've really liked it so far. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, that other one is a little different shape, a little smaller wherever it went.
It's over there, yeah.
And it's even easier in the corn than that one.
Oh, is
because
it?
There's less area of this. And what little bit I hoed there this morning, it worked really well.
Well, good. I should try it too. I just grabbed this little one because I was thinking it was little this way, and maybe I would be less likely to get into the corn like I do sometimes. But
I'm pleased with them so far.
So far.
They don't have the weight. I mean, the weight in one way is good, according to what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you're hoeing corn, you don't need a heavy hoe, but if you're trying to break a little bit of ground, you do. But these, for what we're doing down here, those things work really well.
If you're like me and you can't really lift one good, those heavy ones get hard. But so far, we really like these. So thank you so much for telling us about them. And
if they'll stay together.
If they'll stay together. So this is we've only had them, what, about 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So we'll have to keep testing them out the rest of the year. But R-O-G-U-E, Rogue. You can look up their website, just Google it, or I could put it in the description. I could do that, and you can go. They've got all kinds of different things. So looks like a pretty neat company too.
Yep.
Well, I'm ready for dinner. Are you?
Yeah, I am, if I can get home.
If you can walk home. You got your tractor over here. You can ride it.
Yeah, I'll put you in the bucket and drive you up the hill.
Well, it might be fun. Might be. We're always glad when you stop by to help us celebrate Appalachia, and we're just so thrilled about the corn. And it was, even though it's out there sweating in the hot sun, and I was just like, oh my gosh, we're back in the garden, back in the corn. Just so many wonderful memories there, and also know that you're going to get to eat the bounty of the corn. That's a wonderful thing too. But we hope you'll keep dropping back by until Matt's finally coming down here to break him off an ear of Silver Queen and go home and cook it.
Yeah.
You might have to just cook it down here.
I'll do that.
Do that.